There we are, sir.
Okay, it is 4:30. Ready?
Yes, sir. And we are ready.
We're gonna start the meeting here in about 30 seconds.
I could meet somebody right now and turn right around and be like,
Here we go.
Do I have a what teacher's voice? I do not. Yeah, we're gonna start here in about 30 seconds. If you can get seated, please.
I don't know why we're not hearing that.
barely.
20 seconds.
Is that projecting?
Really low.
Can you hear it over the speaker? It is.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes not. Okay, let's just go ahead and start.
All right, here we go.
I will call to order the Tippecanoe County Executive Committee public hearing for March 4th, 2026. And first on the agenda, do we do a roll call here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Jackson Bogan, Larry Leverins, Diana Looper,
Here.
Tom Murtaugh,
Present.
Kathy Parker,
Here.
Jerry Reynolds, Gary Schroeder,
Here.
quorum present.
Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the February 4th, 2026 public hearing as submitted.
I second it.
So a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any corrections or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. New business.
Our loan case on the agenda is ready to be heard.
Okay, thank you. And I might go ahead and say we just have a brief meeting here before we get to the ordinance committee, which I'm assuming everybody's for. So we'll be done in a few minutes. Public hearing, I'll take that public hearing motion.
Okay, I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application to be heard this evening and to become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, the Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendation on the applications to be heard this evening, and responses from the checkpoint agencies.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So I have a statement to read before we start our executive committee meeting. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedure, the commission would like for you to know the following. When we hear requests to subdivide land, we're only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make a comment or provide us with information regarding any subdivision petition will be given an opportunity to do so. We are a 7-member body, and a majority of 7 is 4. Regardless of how many commission members are actually present, at least 4 votes in favor or 4 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 4 of us agree to either approve or disapprove an action, the case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes, and we ask that you not repeat what others before you have said. This is executive committee, we're doing 5. Ordinance, we're going to do 3 minutes. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting is in session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the room before using your phones. All exhibits presented to the commission become property of the commission. And with that, we'll hear our first case.
I move to continue S 5326 Max Wabash Subdivision Minor Sketch to the March 18th Area Plan Commission public hearing agenda.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, now the first case. Thank you.
I move to hear and vote on S 5321 Wiggins Place Subdivision Minor Sketch.
I second it.
Staff, please.
Hello, is it on? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Petitioner's property is located on the east side of Salisbury Street in West Lafayette. Just to the north is the new east-west collector. There will be not a cul-de-sac, a roundabout right at the corner eventually. Property is zoned R1, single-family residential. The property to the west is actually general business. It was rezoned recently. Here's a look at the aerial photograph. We've got Arbor Chase, Auburn Meadows, Wiggins Farm subdivisions all in that area. Here's a closer look at the property. It's unimproved, as you can see. And here's a look at the sketch plan. They are creating 4 lots. There is an NVA along the entire frontage of both streets. So the access will be in this outlot down here, and there is an access easement that goes along the frontage of Salisbury Street. So that's how they would obtain access. This will be on sewer and city water. So there are 9 conditions of approval, all of them standard. We are recommending conditional primary approval.
Very good, thank you. Petitioner or their representative?
Hi, Josh Nixon with Kimley Horn, 101 Foundry Drive, West Lafayette, here representing the petitioner. We agree with staff's conditions. We appreciate all their help. This is, as Kathy stated, 4-lot, single-family subdivision. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we appreciate your vote of confidence. Thank you.
Very good, thanks, Josh. Anyone in the audience wish to address this? Questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, we have a white ballot, and it's just a minor, so there's no bonding.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Very good, thank you, Ryan. Approval of the March APC public hearing.
I move to place UZO Amendment Number 125 on the March 18th, 2026 Area Plan Commission public hearing agenda.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the following subdivision petition be placed on the March 18th, 2026 Area Plan Commission public hearing agenda at petitioner's request, placement thereon being without reference to compliance or noncompliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance S 5334 Timberbrook Meadows subdivision Phase 2 major preliminary.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I move that the following petitions be placed on the March 25th, 2026 Area Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing agenda. BZA 2223 JHS Investment Group LLC and BZA 2224 First Source Bank.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I move we approve the February 2026 budget report as submitted.
I second it.
Ryan.
Nothing too unusual. We're starting to break into our travel costs for training that is happening this spring. A couple different options for our staff, so we're very grateful for that. Other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Very good, thanks, Ryan. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Any other business?
I move to adjourn.
So we're adjourned. As soon as we're ready, we're going to start the ordinance committee meeting. If we're ready, we'll go ahead and call to order the Area Plan Commission Tippecanoe County Ordinance and Bylaw Committee for March 4th, 2026. And first on agenda, approval of minutes. Go ahead, Kathy.
I move to approve the February 4th, 2026 meeting minutes.
I second it.
Motion and second. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Second, updating solar energy requirements. Ryan.
Okay, a memo was sent to you all along with the recommended draft changes that our Solar Study Committee has produced. So that is definitely for your perusal and discussion tonight. I just wanted to briefly run through how it is organized. First of all, we do have, these are our members that were part of this committee, APC staff assisted, but these are the main players. And then along the way, over the months since September, we've had various presentations by experts and others that were able to provide some very salient information for us. So the recommendations, as I outlined in the memo, are organized not in ordinance format yet. It's sort of general concepts to be organized. And we've divided them into whether something has been agreed to, there's a consensus amongst all the study committee members, whether there are no changes, which those are just called out with, they're not colored at all in the spreadsheet. Those that have been agreed to with a consensus are in green. And then in yellow, we have the ones where there was not consensus, and so we have, in some cases, a multitude of recommendations. And so it would be my recommendation to you as staff to zero in on those first, because those would need essentially an action, either a preferred alternative from amongst the ones offered, or you're free to craft your own from around that. And then once those kind of yellow items are knocked out, we could then turn to the green ones and see if there's concurrence with what the committee recommended as their consensus alternative. Then the goal ultimately is to take all of the preferred alternatives, the ones you voted on and the ones you've agreed to the April meeting, where we would have it in ordinance format for you. That's our ideal. The case itself will be scheduled for the April 15th Area Plan Commission public hearing. That doesn't stop any proceedings here. That's just our destination. And it's worth noting that Exec has no cases on that day, so we will have perhaps a little bit more time on that day. But one last thing, I guess we can go ahead and get into the spreadsheet really quick. I'll just kind of briefly show what it looks like, because we'll be referring to it. You'll notice at the bottom of this Excel spreadsheet, there's 3 tabs. They basically break up the parts of the ordinance where the solar issue is found. And so it is found in chapters 1, 2, and 3. It's heavily in chapter 4. And then the decommissioning plan section itself was not fully completed by the kind of the subgroup of the study committee. And so this should be considered a non-consensus item in its entirety. We'll have to go through it. And to that end, our study committee members may be bringing their other alternatives to this. And so it might be worth it, since decommissioning is actually sort of at the end of the chapter 4 section. We can kind of do that tab last, would be my recommendation there. But so you'll see, like with this example, there's a green item. That obviously is one where there's a single recommendation of consensus. And then here we have a yellow one where there's multiple alternatives in that third column. And so my recommendation would be kind of just go through them and have a discussion when you're ready for that. And then we can just take each item in turn. So that's all I've got.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ryan. We're going to open this up to public. I guess if there's any questions first from the commission before we get started. Ryan kind of laid that out. Not going anywhere. Okay, there is a sign-up sheet on the desk. Go ahead, Amanda.
And I believe we were going to let the committee members speak first if they wanted to.
Okay.
So any committee members who are present who wish to speak.
We'll hear those first. Okay, very good. I was just going to talk about our procedures a little bit, that we are limiting this to 3 minutes to try to get through as many comments as we can. And Eric is going to time for us. He'll give you a 30-second when your time's coming up. So with that, I think we're ready to get started. So we will hear from those on the study committee who wish to speak.
Good evening. Do you want addresses here? I can't remember.
Well, if you put it on the sign-up sheet, just name. What do you want to?
These are study committee members.
Okay.
Okay.
Just name is fine.
Catherine Soborowski, nice to see you again. I'm the lucky person who's been nominated to go first from the public, so here we are. I'd like to start by highlighting a very important issue for you that I think you should keep in mind during this entire amendment process. The point of zoning ordinances is really to balance the interests of adjacent property owners and to co-locate harmonious uses. The focus is health, safety, and welfare of direct stakeholders. When it comes to a solar ordinance, the direct stakeholders are really the farm ground owners in this county who may want to lease into a project, and then their rural neighbors who live directly besides the field where equipment will be located. I've observed throughout this process that other members of the community want to loudly speak about their voice and sing the praises of renewables for the environment, the grid, and the economy, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think what you might see tonight is that we're having two entirely different conversations. One conversation is homeowners who live next to the fields asking you for classic zoning protections. That's the land use conversation. The other conversation is other members of the community who live entirely elsewhere and want to have a policy talk about the virtues of solar. The most important voices in the zoning conversation are the farmers and their direct neighbors. The academic and scientific virtues of solar energy are a conversation for a different day. I was one of the first people to ask you to amend the solar ordinance, and since that time I've gone to school and done my homework. I've collected nearly 70 ordinances from the state of Indiana, and I've read every single one of them. I can confidently tell you that while you may have some good recommendations before you tonight in the tracker, we're still falling far short because this is a very big undertaking and it takes more time than we've had. To give just a few examples, we still don't have any provisions on emergency responders, any provisions on road use standards, any specific provisions on an application fee for the county to hire outside review at the time of special exception, and much more. People often seem to misunderstand the point of ordinances in this conversation. They assume that when someone asks for more regulations, it's a thinly veiled attempt to ban solar, but that's simply untrue. Counties like Pulaski, where you have thousands of acres of solar right now, have much more detailed ordinances than even what you see before you tonight. Additionally, counties like Benton, Boone, Madison, Huntington, and Jasper have ordinances that give rural neighbors greater protection without banning projects by any measure. To emphasize the focus on the right stakeholders, I'd like to call for brief audience participation. Is there any farm ground owner in the room that is interested in leasing into solar? And if so, can you stand? So we have a few, and they're very important voices. You do need to hear what they have to say about their interest for their land. Now, anybody who lives near a field and wants protections, can you please stand or wave a hand? As you can see, the vast majority of direct stakeholders in this room investing in this process are direct neighbors, so please prioritize their voices when confronted with multiple options. Take the restrictive option favoring their interests if it's an even balance for everybody. And in areas where you're unsure or want more info, just ask. I've done the homework and I can answer your questions.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else from the committee? Here we go.
Kenny McClary, and forgive me, I forgot my reading glasses, so I'm going to have to go all natural. 7 months ago, I stood before you to talk about the need for utility-scale solar ordinance changes before this very group. Commissioners gave us, through their moratorium, an opportunity to have some common sense ordinance guardrails put in place that avoid harm and negative impacts similar projects have created elsewhere to all participants, property owners, adjacent property owners, county infrastructure, and environmental concerns. Moratorium gave us a chance to hit the pause button, consider some practical approaches for competing land uses that we have here that are unique to Tippecanoe County. I provided you a 12-point roadmap of the ordinance issues to be considered. A copy of that original speech from July is in your folder there. under the appropriate July 2025 tab. I provided a 12-point roadmap of ordinance issues to be considered. Handout going around shows how our ordinances tonight that you're looking at, the draft, compares to that original 12-point plan. Recall that this 12-point plan was taken as an accumulation of what other counties in Indiana are doing, have been doing, and are focused on completing in the time period since we last talked. Much has transpired in those 7 months. We've studied a lot about what smart solar really should look like. And for those who wish to take a clear-eyed and fact-based approach by observing actual facilities, not only across Indiana, but many other states, looking at completed projects, talking to people in counties that have those completed projects, and equally important to look at battery energy storage systems facilities. The APC group that met together essentially has run out of time to bring you a balanced, comprehensive, and well-reasoned set of recommendations. As a committee member, I do not agree with all the conclusions tonight, which are tagged as consensus. I think they're good starting points, but there's more work to be done. There are critical community voices which have been missing in this discussion so far. Catherine pointed on a few. The 800 Tippecanoe County citizens who make their business or living from agribusiness and farm services were denied a direct voice in these conversations. Emergency responders have not been represented on issues of public safety, fire safety, and responders. Our realtor community has not been consulted in terms of property values, rural residential development, and our smaller communities, and the impacts that utility scale solar has on land use.
30 seconds, Kenny.
Stockwell, Romney, Dayton, Buck Creek, Clarks Hill, West Point, Battleground, and others have not been represented in this conversation. Since my presentation, a lot of counties moved forward. Tippecanoe County has fallen behind. We got a lot of work to do. That's now falling on your shoulders. In the tabs that I've got here is a lot of fact-finding that we've compiled, some information around BES and ER, which were submitted yet not part of what you're going to see tonight, that are essential. And I hope that now you will take the work to shoulder the process to move on and complete what these ordinances need to contain. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Kenny.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jane Frankenberger, a professor of agricultural engineering at Purdue, and my specialty is in soil and water engineering and management, and I agreed to serve on the Solar Ordinance Study Committee to bring that expertise to the deliberations. The committee's goal was to create a clear, defensible, and balanced solar ordinance by drawing on the diverse expertise of its members, incorporating scientific evidence, and compromising where necessary to achieve consensus. I'm disappointed to report that we were not fully successful. We have met 9 times since September 2025. I've attended each meeting. We carefully reviewed the concerns about the existing ordinance and examined potential solutions in good faith. As recently as 3 weeks ago, we believed we had reached a compromise on several key provisions, including a limit on total project acreage in the county that many of us found quite restrictive, but agreed to as a better alternative than individual project caps. However, that compromise broke down during our final meeting when alternatives that had not been discussed or supported by evidence were presented. As a result, the document that you see tonight combines some alternatives that were vetted through discussion, evidence, and compromise with other alternatives that most believe are unreasonable and would function as a de facto ban on solar development in Tippecanoe County. One example is the setbacks. It's in Chapter 4, lines 28 to 34. Alternative 1 includes a tiered set of setback distances up to 600 feet from an occupied structure with 3 sides adjacent to a project. While some of us believed this distance exceeded what was necessary, given the low expected noise and visual impacts of modern solar facilities, we agreed to it in the interest of compromise. Despite that, another alternative was added that would require a 1,320-foot setback. This distance exceeds setbacks required for junkyards, adult entertainment facilities, mining, motor vehicle racing, and shooting ranges, with no evidence to justify it. So in short, you are being presented with one alternative that reflects significant compromise and another that reflects quite an extreme position. This situation is similar for several of the sections. Unfortunately, the document before you presents a range of alternatives for several decisions, but some appear to be motivated primarily by a desire to deter large-scale solar development, disregarding the county's well-balanced approach to solar energy planning. So we plan to provide clarification supporting our recommendations for the Ordinance Committee's consideration in the near future, and hope that will be helpful. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Good evening, Joe Soborowski. I'll try to be pretty quick. I know you're looking at the Excel spreadsheet. It makes my eyes cross too when I look at it. Good segue from Jane. I kind of want to talk about a piece. I know she mentioned no fact base, anything, but unfortunately we've been looking at a lot of county ordinances and been reviewing this stuff, and many of the recommendations that we put forth are based upon fact, and I'm just want to address one of the areas that you're going to look at on this Excel spreadsheet, and that's the acreage cap. We're not seeking anything extreme, nothing crazy. Acreage caps are for solar projects are used in many counties in Indiana. There's an entire list in your packet. It also helps to keep with the rural communities and protects the neighboring properties. A 400-acre cap is already a very big project. Okay, that's 2/3 of a square mile, or over 300 football fields. Okay, so solar projects can operate successfully at this scale. If you look at data from the Clean Grid Alliance, there are currently 117 commercial solar farms operating in Indiana. 104 of those, or nearly 90%, are 300 acres or less. Okay, so even with a 400-acre cap, we would still be larger than the vast majority of solar farms already operating in the state. Even the developer that applied last year, Genex, if you look at their website, their list of operating projects, nearly half of them are on acreage of less than 200 acres. Okay, so the idea that these aren't economically viable at larger scale or at smaller scales is unfounded. And project size matters because impacts increase as projects get larger. Okay, larger facilities spread panels out, they have more inverters, and they impact a wider area, which means more potential noise, obviously from the inverters, a greater chance that glare can negatively impact nearby residents, as well as a difficulty screening properly for much a bigger project. As project size grow, more non-participating landowners are exposed to these impacts. Project size also has public safety implications. Extremely large solar facilities can make emergency access more difficult for firefighters, EMS, etc. So reasonable size limits helps ensure that we remain manageable in the event of an emergency. A 400-acre cap does not stunt or forbid solar development. It simply ensures projects remain at a reasonable scale for rural areas.
30 seconds.
So thank you very much.
Very good, thank you.
Greetings. My name is Larry Nyes. I joined the Solar Ordinance Committee in December. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a professor of environmental engineering at Purdue University. During my sabbatical from August 2024 through July of 2025, I worked with a firm that developed, constructed, and operated utility-scale solar facilities. Today, I'm speaking as a resident of Tippecanoe County. Demand for electricity is growing, approximately 3% annually nationwide, and more than double that rate in some regions. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, more than half of all new generating capacity currently coming online is solar. There are already more than 5,000 utility-scale solar facilities operating successfully across the United States, and many counties have adopted well-grounded ordinances that align with established codes and standards while providing meaningful protection for residents. Tippecanoe County has an opportunity here. We need more electricity. Solar is the fastest growing new capacity, and our county has the natural resources to contribute, generating economic benefit for residents and for Indiana. On the question of facility size, I want to offer a technical perspective. Larger facilities produce lower overall impacts than multiple smaller ones. This comes down to basic geometry. Smaller parcels significantly increase the ratio of perimeter to land area, which means more shared boundary with neighboring properties. Fewer, larger facilities reduce that exposure. They also cost significantly less to develop per megawatt, which improves project viability and potentially allows more development resources to return to the county. I encourage the committee to base its recommendations on the facts and evidence that are available. There is substantial experience to draw from across the country. I'm happy to be a resource as you deliberate. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. Anyone else from the study committee wishing to speak? If not, we will open up just general comments.
Okay, so first on our list, we have Anna Sorg with Daryl Schultz on deck. So Daryl, please be ready to come up once Anna is done.
Hello, my name is Anna Sorg, and my address is 122 North Street, West Lafayette, Indiana, 47906. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of Purdue students in the Sustainable Energy Club of Purdue, the Purdue Climate Action Collective, the Purdue Student Sustainability Council, and the Boiler Green Initiative Club. Collectively, this is over 250 students that represent the future generation of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, the United States, and the world. Before I begin, I would like to ask the APC if I can approach to give you a handout that contains more information on my speaking points. My generation is invested in seeing solar technology used in Tippecanoe County, and we urge you to go forward with amendments to the solar ordinance that would benefit the future production of solar energy. Today, I will be bringing forth solar myths and rebuttals pertaining to the proposed alternatives to the new ordinance. The first solar myth is that solar farms create glare. Manufacturers utilize anti-reflective coatings on panels that manipulate and reduce the amount of light that bounces back off the surface. The glass surface is textured to diffuse the light reflected instead of a concentrated beam. Studies show that the following are more reflective than solar panels: asphalt, standard window glass, water, and snow. In the new subsection proposed in the UZO Chapter 4, one of the alternatives suggests that large-scale SES shall not exceed 0.5 foot candles, yet at midday in no shade, the sun emits 10,000 foot candles. So is this a fair suggestion for solar to only emit 0.5 when the sun causes 20,000 times more natural glare? So the second solar myth that is that solar creates heat islands. A study by the University of Arizona found that the temperature of soil in full midday sun is often hotter than the same soil under solar panels. Additionally, per a study by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, planting native seed mixes below solar arrays will absorb heat naturally and ultimately support soil health, which is one of the alternatives to the planting. So the 3 months planting over the 3-year planting would be more beneficial for this ordinance. Finally, the third solar myth is that citizens within Tippecanoe County are against utility-scale solar development. For the past 5 months, I have been deep canvassing and phone banking, and many of the citizens I have talked to are in support of utility-scale solar here in Tippecanoe County. So I thank you for your time, and have a great night. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Anna. Next up, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Daryl Schultz, and I live at 1815 Woodland Avenue in West Lafayette. I'm a soil scientist and a retired professor of agronomy from Purdue. If a solar farm is done right, it will improve soil health. Under solar panels, perennials such as managed pasture grasses or a mix of plants similar to native prairies are dominated by plants with deep fibrous root systems. These roots are alive all year and distribute organic matter deep within the soil. This promotes diverse communities of soil microorganisms and soil-dwelling species of insects and earthworms, and in turn supports a diverse community of small mammals, birds, and other wildlife. Soil structure improves over time, and as soil structure improves, water infiltration improves, and soil erosion and runoff and water decreases. In contrast, maintaining and let alone improving soil health under row crops is difficult. Corn and soybean rotations, there a crop is actively growing only 3 to 4 months of the year, and that is a monoculture. If the soil is tilled after harvest, the soil is bare for more than half the year. In summary, solar farms are a win-win situation. Not only do they convert much more solar radiation into usable energy than corn and soybeans, the perennial vegetation under solar panels greatly improves soil health, promotes water infiltration, and reduces erosion and runoff. Changing subjects, I disagree with many of the assertion of those opposed to solar farms, but there's one point with which I agree strongly, and that is that it's critical for the solar farm not to comprise or compromise the soil for future uses. Specifically, unnecessarily stripping of the topsoil or regrading for ease of construction should be prohibited, and removal of topsoil for access roads and pads for equipment is okay, but the topsoil should be saved on site for future restoration. This concern is addressed in a proposed amendment to the solar ordinance, which I support. And finally, I've submitted my responses to a number of inaccurate and misleading soil-related assertions in the handout that I distributed. Thank you.
Thank you.
While Sally is walking up there, we also have Angie Delworth on deck.
My name is Sally Fahey, 3910 Morehouse Road, West Lafayette. I am here today representing the League of Women Voters of Greater Lafayette. The League has a long-standing position supporting renewable energy, including large-scale solar. That position is based on extensive study followed by adoption. We reiterated this position last June to the Board of County Commissioners in support of the existing solar ordinance. That said, the League supports compromise if it results in tweaks to the UZO that produce a better ordinance for all involved. The League does not support compromise in this instance if the compromise is so one-sided that it deters large-scale solar companies from seeking to locate in Tippecanoe County. Because of the late publication of the Solar Study Committee's report, the League reserves the ability to thoroughly review the report's recommendations and alternatives and either submit a written statement prior to the next Ordinance Committee meeting or to speak to those recommendations and alternatives at the next meeting. It has also come to my attention that there may be some concern in the community about accountability regarding compliance with the ordinance. I can verify that that is an unfounded concern, as there are numerous county departments with authority to enforce pertinent ordinances. Those departments include the Area Plan Commission, its Board of Zoning Appeals, the APC Staff Zoning Inspector, the County Permits Office, the County Highway Department, the County Surveyor, and the Drainage Board. I worked with these departments for 47 years, and I can state with absolute assurance that they all work well together, support each other's mandates, and are not timid about enforcing the available ordinances for the benefit of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
After Angie Delworth will be Benjamin Davis.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Angie Delworth, and I live at 2908 Wilshire Avenue in West Lafayette. I support a solar ordinance that allows new solar farms in Tippecanoe County and agree with the study committee's recommendations to limit development to no more than 5% of premium agricultural land. My comments focus on fiscal stability and the rights of property owners, particularly in light of the property tax relief bill passed by the Indiana General Assembly in 2025. According to the Indiana Legislative Services Agency, Tippecanoe County is projected to lose about $24 million in revenue in 2026 due to SB 1, with losses increasing in future years. These reductions will inevitably affect services relied upon by county residents. Purdue agricultural economist Larry DeBoer found that the solar farms he studied in 2023 generated roughly $900 to $1,000 per acre per year more in property tax revenue than the same fields if used for crops. A 1,000 acre development would generate approximately $915,000 in additional tax revenue annually. Using these same numbers, the proposed 1,700 acre rainbow trout project could provide about $1.6 million per year for the county and other local taxing units. While I am not an economist, I spent most of my career managing budgets at Purdue. When faced with revenue reductions, academic units had to make the hard decisions of reducing expenditures or identifying new sources of revenue. Solar farm development represents a very practical way to help offset the anticipated losses of SB 1. Regarding property rights, I can speak as a co-owner of farmland in a neighboring county that has been in my family for more than 150 years. I was raised on that land in a rural community where landowners were trusted to use their land responsibly to support their families and communities. For solar farms that meet established codes and requirements, we should likewise trust our Tippecanoe County landowners to make decisions that best serve their situations and their operations. While nearby residents have expressed concerns, those concerns have been addressed in the ordinance language. It is therefore appropriate, in my opinion, to also consider the broader public benefit of the increased tax revenue from these farms. These decisions require balancing individual preferences with property rights, fiscal responsibility by the county, and long-term economic impact.
30 seconds, please.
I urge you to adopt a solar ordinance that supports the development of solar farms in our county and allows them to operate at full capacity, strengthening our local tax base, supporting our infrastructure and public services, and delivering sustained economic benefits to our broader community. Thank you for your time.
Very good, thank you.
After Benjamin will be Nicole Duttlinger.
Good evening, Benjamin Davis. I live at 5105 Snapdragon Court in Lafayette. I've had solar on my roof for 4 years, and I love knowing that I have a fixed amount of energy produced for the next several decades, regardless of what rates do, and that my co-op utility, Tipmont, has a wonderful net metering policy that makes solar so much more affordable than all the poor customers who have their solar production stolen due to bad net metering policies. I, for one, would love to see solar in my backyard. A lot of people are afraid of having solar near them as they think it would block their view and would generally prefer crops like corn. After building my home in 2016 on a lot that's backing up to a clear meadow, the property was sold 2 years ago and is now farmed. So now, out of a few months out of the year, instead of the clear view that we chose our lot for, we see a wall of corn. I've honestly dreamed of seeing that land, having solar on it, a solar farm on it, improving that view, in my view, with silent, clean energy production, while still maintaining my distant view, since my view out of my house is eastward and the panels would face south. Personally, solar and wind farms always bring a smile to my face, as I know they mean that there are less fossil fuel generation resources needed to serve our growing grid. Whenever we drive past one, when I'm on vacation and driving somewhere, my wife always, "Hey, Ben, solar." So I'm like, hey. Large solar development provides numerous benefits for local residents, including increased property taxes for the project, the potential for community benefit agreements for additional local investments in entities like schools, whose funding is being severely cut by the state, which is previously mentioned, and the decreased need for expensive long-distance transmission lines, since the electrons are generated very close to the loads here in our county. So I support large-scale solar in Tippecanoe County, and anyone is open to reaching out to me. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Ben.
After Nicole will be Dan Collins.
Hello, Nicole Duttlinger, 511 Kerber Road, West Lafayette, Indiana, one of the very much affected landowners. I'd like to speak about what I see as a logical inconsistency in how we approach land use policy in Tippecanoe County as of late. I'm going to do that by comparing data centers and industrial solar. I'm going to start out with some quotes from our executive director, Mr. O'Gara, about data centers. Quote, "We felt like it was best to get ahead of it and at least create a stopgap measure allowing for them, but giving them some sort of narrow pathway. If, however, there are plans for a large data center, more than 10,000 square feet, it will be limited to an I-2 zoning district. A very narrow path, but not a prohibition," unquote. O'Gara also said, quote, "We're just paving a path for this, and this path would give sort of maximum public scrutiny because there would be a rezone action," unquote. Why are we not doing this same thing with these ordinances about industrial solar? Many in our community strongly support strict ordinances for data centers. The concerns are familiar: land consumption, environmental impact, strain on infrastructure, long-term community benefit, and transparency in the approval process. Those are legitimate concerns. Large-scale projects should absolutely be examined carefully. But here's the inconsistency. When it comes to industrial solar, those same standards are often relaxed or even dismissed entirely. That is a logical fallacy. If the principle is that large industrial developments require strict oversight because they affect land use, infrastructure, aesthetics, and community character, then that principle must be applied consistently, regardless of whether the project involves servers or solar panels. We cannot argue that data centers demand rigorous review because they are industrial in scale, yet claim that industrial solar is fundamentally different simply because it produces renewable energy. Both occupy large tracts of land, both alter the landscape, both involve long-term contractual and infrastructural commitments, and both deserve thoughtful, consistent standards. Supporting renewable energy is very important, but supporting renewable energy does not mean suspending critical thinking. If we weaken our standards for one type of industrial development while strengthening them for another, we are not governing by principle. We are governing by preference. Good policy is consistent. It applies the same criteria to similar impacts. If the concern is land preservation, let's preserve the land.
30 seconds.
If the concern is community character, let's protect it. But let's not apply strict scrutiny selectively. Consistency is not anti-solar, it's just pro-accountability. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
After Dan will be Suzanne Collins.
Good evening, Dan Collins, 7602 Amanda Lane, West Lafayette, in the Catterson Hollow subdivision. And the people who live in Shelby Township, including us, value the quiet beauty, wildlife, and ambiance of our surroundings, and our farmland that supported families for generations. Now our land, property values, and chosen way of life are being threatened. The revised ordinance in question needs to protect the property values of over 200 residents that are very near the proposed section and the residents themselves. They need to protect our surrounding environment with its abundant flora and fauna and preserve some of the most fertile, productive farmland in the world. The protections needed to mitigate foreseeable harm to township and county homeowners were presented last August 27th. Please include those protections, as have other counties, by developing an appropriate and applicable ordinance as intended by the County Commissioner's moratorium. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Dan.
After Suzanne will be I apologize, I can't read this. Marley Brimmer, Mask Brimmer?
Okay.
Hello, Suzanne Collins, and I'm also at 7602 Amanda Lane. That's off of Kerber Road, right across from the southern section of the proposed Rainbow Trout Solar Farm. What I am most concerned about is not something that I see in the proposed ordinances and changes, but what I don't see, and that is addressing the BESS or the energy storage systems. Most of these large-scale utility-grade solar facilities will employ BESS situations. And those use lithium-ion batteries, which are very volatile. You've probably heard of some people who have been traveling on an airplane and their laptop or something suddenly caught fire. Well, think of those on a mega scale in these BESS systems. What we need are some ordinances that will put some controls and guidelines there in how these are set up within the solar energy area, what kind of boundaries are there, and most importantly, should there be a fire that results from these systems, how are those going to be handled? What kind of emergency systems are you going to have in place to be able to address these? When there have been large-scale fires, they've had to evacuate a 3 to 4 mile circumference around that fire because of the poisonous gases that are emitted from that. So who's going to evacuate all those residences around that area? What do the local fire departments have to say? I know some of them testified in August and they weren't really thrilled about the thought of having to fight these fires there. I want to know what's going to happen with if they do have to fight fires. For the immediate fire, they have to use a particular foam, but sometimes they have to use massive amounts of water to cool the remaining pieces that are not flaming. What happens to all that massive amount of water? It goes into the ground. And is it going to be contaminated? Is that going to contaminate our wells? So there are a lot of things to think about, not just in relation to this particular application for an exception, but for all the future kinds of applications there might be for solar in our area. So we have to be broad-sided and figure out what are we going to do in worst-case scenarios in addition to best case. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Suzanne.
On deck is Lisa Tarkin.
Hi, everyone. Marley Bremner, 24 Hilltop Drive, Apartment 6, 47906. Thanks for being here and dedicating your time to this amazing county. I want to speak today about why government is important to me as it relates to this larger conversation about solar energy. Some of the revisions prioritize community protections over community guidelines. Community guidelines and ordinances have been shown to make communities more happier and more prosperous. A little bit about me, I grew up believing in government. I thought I knew how it worked. I thought it was bulletproof because it was designed to avoid opposition. Yet in the smallest ways, and the smallest but greatest communities, I learned that that's not necessarily the case. Growing up also came with radicalization, and over time I learned that government is corrupt. But with that is also lost hope. Let me use this metaphor to encapsulate this feeling. There is a phenomenon that happens in environmental sciences. So many students end up dropping out of this because when they learn about what's happening and the science behind climate change, they find it too devastating, and they're discouraged from continuing to fight and make a difference. I've watched my friends' spirits die, and my family has slowly revealed how little they believe in government systems anymore. Shouldn't this concern us? The truth is, there is hope. I believe that here at the local level, this is where we can make the major differences. This hearing is more than a little bit to me because solar energy gives the government a chance to prove itself and to prove that it works for the people. As Vice President of the Business Law and Compliance Society, this is important to me and it goes to show how much I value regulatory compliance. If utility-sized solar arrays are not banned, which currently some of the ordinance language severely diminishes this possibility, I would personally oversee the regulatory compliance of these businesses to make sure that communities are not the ones being hurt from these arrangements, but that communities are the beneficiaries. And I'll leave you all here with one comment. I challenge everyone to research what a community benefit agreement can offer you and your community when it's paired with utility-sized scale developments. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
After Lisa will be Del Craig.
Hi, my name is Lisa Tarvett. I live at 110 Windmill Court in Lafayette. And some things that I've heard said, I won't repeat. But we've been looking to downsize for over 3 years. And whenever we see housing that's by a field, it's like, nope, that could end up tomorrow's solar farm. Because we've been through some areas like Stark County and Pulaski, and now I see what's going on White County, where it's way too close to the housing. And we won't even consider it because we do not want to feel like we're in a prison with all the fencing around it, and that's what it seemed like. And I know a lot of the residents from just following some of the sites are very unhappy with, and they do feel like it's a prison, and especially schools, I do not think should be close to any school. But that is a big concern to our family, and I'm not against solar farms. I think there's a place for them as long as they aren't overwhelming, but again, I like to protect the farmland, but a farmer may need some solar. I see that up north a lot, even with the Amish, they're using solar farms to do their bikes now, and it's very interesting. I think it can be worked out, but I think we need to be very cautious. So I know you guys are going to do a great job with this. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
All right, after Dell, we have Jeffrey. Sanchez.
Good evening. Del Craig, 6817 South, 700 West, West Point, Indiana. I'm here speaking on behalf of two things. One, myself, and I'll address that one first to help you quickly, committee. I also have a handout for you if I can approach. There's some recommendations that you think you might want to consider in terms of the ordinance, and also I pulled from the FSA offices how much is actually registered farmland here in this estate, excuse me, in the county, since that was as one of the potential pieces. And I would call your attention to the spreadsheet that you've worked here on the, what would be the section 1, because nothing's been mentioned about that just yet. You had three alternatives here that you would recommended in terms of permitted by special exception, what type of land zoning to consider. An alternative where there's ORA and AW only. Alternative 2, no changes. Alternative 3, where you had a 6,000 acre cap. And then alternative 4, which scared me to death at 10% of the cropland. There's 200,000 acres of row crops and pasture land in Tippecanoe County today, as registered at the FSA office. So 10% would be 20,000 acres, which is on my mind pretty scary when you think about American Farmland Trust tells us that we are, in the state of Indiana, we are way ahead of most states, unfortunately, with our urban sprawl. We are losing 2,000 acres a minute across the United States. Now, not in Indiana, but Indiana is 15% ahead of most states. So that's that piece. Now I want to switch away from Del Craig, and Del Craig's now going to represent the Indiana Farm Bureau, excuse me, the Tippecanoe County Farm Bureau and the 800 members that we have. We wrote you a letter back in August, and I'm just going to talk to just a few of those points. The board of Tippecanoe County Farm Bureau wrote to express our concerns regarding the proposed rainbow trout solar project, currently under your review for special exemption. While we support renewable energy development and recognize its importance for our environmental future, we strongly support it. We believe this specific project in this specific location being proposed raises significant issues that merit careful consideration, further analysis, and we wrote accurate answers before a regrettable decision is made. So thank you, commissioners, for putting the ordinance committee together and talking about it. You listened and you put that group together and you've been working on it. But our position, because our position on renewable generally really hasn't changed, we want to emphasize that our concerns about this specific project do not reflect our opposition to renewable energy.
30 seconds, sir.
You bet. As long as it's done on rooftops and pervious parking lots and those type of things, all right? But development on agricultural land is where it needs to be done, not in Class A and Class AA farmland. We respectfully urge the board to deny the special exception. Now, it's not what you're working on today, you're working on the ordinance. And if you are going to do it, you got
3 minutes, sir.
3 minutes? I'm done. All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Very
Gary's
good.
laughing.
No, just, we're done, and I appreciate you stopping.
You bet.
I know you had more to say, so
You bet.
that's
Great.
the only reason. Thank you.
That's okay, quite all right. I'll be in touch.
Thank you. Next, please.
Up after Jeffrey will be Kevin Kircher.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Sanchez. I'm a PhD candidate at Purdue University, working on agrivoltaic systems, and I'm going to talk to you guys. So, solar energy and agriculture can coexist. The way the ordinance is currently being proposed makes this a choice between renewable energy and farming. The role of a county solar ordinance is to protect the local landowners while encouraging development to occur. County ordinance need to ensure that solar developers are not driven purely by profit, but are required to design projects in ways that support the local stakeholders. Tippecanoe County houses Purdue University, a world-class agricultural research institution that studies how solar and agriculture can coexist. The research shows that solar sites can be designed in ways that allow farming to continue. However, without proper planning and accountability, solar developers can take from our local farming community without giving anything back. The thoughtful and proper execution of these solar ordinances, which encourage dual land use, has already been found in other states. For example, Maryland mandates for a solar developer to receive property tax cuts, a suitable agrivoltaic project must be installed. A solar array casts shadow patterns determined by their configuration. In row crops, dense configurations may reduce yield substantially, while more open configurations create lighter shadow and allow crops to perform close to normal levels. Now, farmers and landowners should not have to navigate these risks on their own. Thus, solar developers should be required to fund an independent, impartial agricultural representative who can help farmers understand the implications of a solar project before agreements are signed. Farmers deserve access to clear, unbiased information about how a project will affect their crops and soil. Tools that model the impacts of shading already exist. That information should be provided to farmers upfront, and it should be the obligation of the developer to provide it. Farmers should also be aware about how these installations will interact with their existing equipment and farming practices. Understanding that crop yield and array density are inversely related, land lease agreements between farmers and solar developers should be determined by the density of a system and the capability for a farmer to continue farming it. Solar development can provide a new source of economic stability for family farms in rural communities. That will only happen if our ordinances ensure that developers share responsibility for supporting the agricultural systems that already exist. Thank you very much for your time.
Very good, thank you.
After Kevin will be John Aid.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for holding this event. It's fun to see democracy in action. My name is Kevin Kircher. I'm an assistant professor in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering at Purdue. Talked about a bunch of themes tonight. I'll just touch on a couple that I feel like have not really come up. The first is that solar is broadly popular. In fact, solar, if you look at polling, consistently outperforms almost every other type of energy source nationwide. A recent poll that showed up in Canary Media reached out to 800 Republican Trump voters and Republican-leaning independents and found that more than half view utility-scale solar favorably, and that number rises to 70% favorability among Republicans if the panels are made in America. Okay. Another poll by Pew Research recently found 77% favorability across all Americans of utility-scale solar, 91% among Democrats, and 61% favorability among Republicans. So Anna talked a little bit about her experience working door-to-door with Tippecanoe County residents and the popularity that she's heard by word of mouth, but I think the numbers and surveys also support that. The second thing I'd like to mention is that the range of options on the table here kind of runs on the one extreme from no regulation whatsoever of solar, right, let the free market rip, to effectively banning solar at the other end of the spectrum. Now, the document that is up on the screens here has about half a dozen provisions in it that would amount to effectively banning solar in Tippecanoe County. So I just want to remind you that the middle road solution, the compromise solution, is not to say no to 3 of the bans and yes to the other 3, right? Effectively landing us at the far end of the spectrum there. It's to carefully consider basically a non-ban solution that provides solar opportunities for developers and for the farmers who want it on their land, while making sure that we as a county are good stewards of the land and what we can do with it, not just now, but for decades to come. The final thing that I'll mention is that solar is now, due to technology revolution, some of which were made here in our backyard at Purdue University and elsewhere in Indiana, solar is now the cheapest and the cleanest source of new electricity generation. And we are in a moment of unprecedented electricity demand growth from data centers and from other things like electric vehicles and electric heating and so forth, technologies that I work on at Purdue. So we need new electricity supply. If we don't build it here, it's going to get built somewhere. If it's not clean, it's going to be dirty.
30 seconds, please.
Thank you. And the people who basically live near the coal power plants, gas power plants that will make up the gap if we don't build solar are going to face real impacts. So let me just say, if I were a landowner near some farmland that was beautiful and had wonderful views, I might not be in favor of having that land basically converted to solar. I get it, right? Views are very nice. But on the other hand of the spectrum, if we don't build clean energy, we're going to use more dirty energy, and that's going to cause real health impacts for the people who have that in their backyard, which ranges from lung cancer, heart disease, stroke, and other serious illnesses. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
After John will be A.R. Lane.
John 8, 8640 West, 125 North, West Lafayette. I'm going to give you a handout here. You've seen me before. We presented at the BZA meeting. The first picture is a picture of...
If you'd hold your comments till you get back to the microphone, then she can get them in the record.
Okay.
Please, he won't start your time.
All right.
Or he'll pause your time till you get back there. Thank you.
Now you can start.
Now you can start.
Okay. As I say, you've seen me before. The first page there, that's a picture of our farm on the previous project. And I would like to look at the current, what has been proposed, has nothing in there around 3 or 4 sides. I consider that 4 sides. I'm on 3 3/4. So I have 12 acres, totally surrounded with 60 acres on both sides on the other side of the road. To me, that is too much. We had in that project 4 homes that would be surrounded by 3 sides. The other 2 pieces are our current ordinance that we have for Tippecanoe, and the other is the ordinance that Boone County is presenting to their group. Ours is 12 pages. Boone County is 26. Fountain County has a 32-page proposition, and Carroll County has a 26-page. I'd like for you to take the time just to read through that to see how complete the Boone County addresses both residents and farmers, landowners, and proper setbacks. 400 acre in a size of a project is not that, it's a large deal. If you go stand out in the middle of 400 acres, it's a big deal. When we were objecting to this 1,700 acre plan, there's only 1,500 acres between Purdue University and the 1,700 acres that were being proposed to be developed on that project between 52 and South River Road above the river. You go and take 1,500 to 1,700 acres of that side of the community out, it's a tremendous, impact. There were no real estate developers or real estate people that were involved in the discussion about these new proposals. To me, you also just had the state, I guess Shelby Township is going to become some other township with the new proposed township. So we're not going to have a say in that. You just changed the AAA land usage in our adjoining county. So to me, you need to take a step back, and I think there's an opportunity to review, and maybe it has to be deferred to get a good read on this whole project.
Very good, thank you.
After AR will be David Byers.
Okay, hello, my name is A.R. Lane. I live at 127 Westwood Drive in West Lafayette. I'm just going to read a letter to the editor that I wrote to the Journal and Courier in support of large-scale solar. So our community is currently considering updates to the solar ordinance. My hope is simple, that the decision be guided by evidence, fairness, and long-term local value. Large-scale solar is often framed as land loss, but it can function as economic development. Local construction creates skilled jobs, often union, and projects can provide ongoing tax revenue through economic development agreements or community benefit agreements that directly support public schools, infrastructure, and services. From a land use perspective, solar is not the end of agriculture. Soil beneath panels typically experiences less erosion and improves water retention due to reduced compaction and runoff. Agri-solar expands the value further by providing sheep grazing and shade, protecting pollinators and beekeeping habitats. All can coexist with energy production. Preserving working land while diversifying farm income. Considering energy efficiency, in 2024, roughly 43 to 48% of Indiana's corn went to ethanol production. Yet solar produces 14 to 17 times more usable energy per acre and can offset demand within our local energy grid with the appropriate legislation and oversight instead of sending that power elsewhere. That doesn't diminish agriculture. It highlights an opportunity to balance food, fuel, and economic opportunity with family values and environmental sustainability. Finally, participation is voluntary. Landowners negotiate leases and solar agreements can help keep farms fiscally sustainable, leaving the family that owns it to decide what's best for their next generations. A thoughtful ordinance should allow responsible development while protecting neighbors and property rights. We can support farmers, strengthen the tax base, and diversify energy production all at the same time. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. David.
After Dave will be Patty Jischke.
David Byers, 20 North 3rd Street. I really want to say thank you to all the committee members for the time that you have put in this. I know some of the meetings have been pretty contentious. I want to thank the board or staff for what you're doing. I'm going to take a guess. Every one of you like to eat, right? Okay, I'm just taking that. Well, you can tell I just heard you. All right, so. That's right, and I'm not going to sit here and say whether I'm pro or con on this right now. I'm going to go back to what I said way back when it came to I don't think it was the Ordinance Committee, whichever committee. I truly believe AA ground that's been designated that should be off limits here. That is considered prime agricultural ground. That's what I'm going to say. I know in Jasper County they have a scoring system that you can score the value of the production of that ground, and they have gone up there and the ground that was kind of lower value, maybe you only average 150 bushel corn versus 250 bushel corn, they opened the doors for that one for solar. So they trying to keep the most productive ground sacred to agriculture. Food and fiber. A lot of us like that. So I want to say thank you. I would hope you would really look at the AA designation of saying, I said back then, I don't think there's a real difference between A and AA, and to me there should be. But I thank you for your time and what you're doing. I thank all of you, because in retrospect, we're not being contentious, we're not being argumentative, we're working with each other. And that's the beauty of this community with your elected officials and hopefully with you, the citizens. You may disagree totally, but you haven't thrown a shoe at me. So I thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah. Sorry.
After Patty, we'll have a committee member, Zach.
Hello, I'm Patty Jischke. I live at 967 Westminster Circle here in West Lafayette. Our main concern, a major concern for our community, our state, and our country is the need for electricity. This is going to be an increasing problem. We're a society that is deeply dependent on electricity. but I would like to specifically talk to what I perceive as being our Tippecanoe County farmers' needs. The average farmer in Indiana is about 56 years old. We all know that they're getting older. And there are about 712 farms in Tippecanoe County. The average farm in Tippecanoe County is 334 acres. The average Tippecanoe farmer has a net cash income from their farm in 2022 of about $78,000. And as you've been hearing from the news, farm income has been down from the year 2025, and there was it was a net negative income per acre, and the projection for 2026 is the same thing. I think that what we have to consider is one of the other people mentioned that solar panels can yield about $900 to $1,000 per acre for 30 years. A farmer could put 100 acres into solar panels, a third of what they own if it was an average farm, and no farm is average, and they could have an annual payment of $90,000 to $100,000 and still have another 230 acres to farm. The money could make the difference between their losing their farm and keeping it for another generation. Given the future needs we have for electricity, I believe we must do all we can to grease the skids to generate as much electricity as we can. Solar is clean, it's cheap, and it's not vulnerable to disruption, such as the shutting down of the Straits of Hormuz due to Middle East wars. Let us grab the future by streamlining the process of electric generation. Let's make the regulations simple if we possibly can, straightforward and easily accomplished.
30 seconds, please.
Thank you. Let's eliminate multiple inspections and various hoops to jump through. Let's help our own farmers and all the other companies, businesses, schools, organizations, and families to have the electricity that they will need to support a bold and exciting future. Let's make it easy. Let's not make it so complex that the procedure takes months and months and months and years to get done. Farmers don't have very much time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty.
After Zach is done speaking, we will have Dean Craig.
Thank you for having me. And as a committee member, I'd like to say that the provisions that we have recommended is to create real enforceable and protection for the neighbors, roads, farmlands, taxpayers, while rewarding solar contractors if they have the prerequisite knowledge and financial stability, or the EPCs who meet and abide by, the requirements of what we hope that is a community benefit ordinance. So I felt like our objective is to recommend an ordinance changes that stops taxpayers from carrying abandoned project risks. So, thank you.
Thank you.
After Dean will be Phil Farrar.
Hi, I'm Dean Craig. I live at 3492 East, 1400 North, Attica, Indiana. But I'm a farmer, and I have about 1,000 acres plus in Tippecanoe County, southwest part of the county. As a farmer, I believe, or a landowner, that anybody should be able to do what they want to their land. Now, I realize you guys have this committee for that. But what I want to sort of change pace about, something totally different. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them or not. But if the major utility company would come to me and ask for me for 10 to 20 acres for an SMR. You guys familiar with SMRs? An SMR is a small molecular reactor, or they are common now. They are being produced in the United States. I think Google's got one in one of the southern states, just for a data center only. It will replace 3,500 acres of solar fields. So I consider as a farmer, the footprint that one of those take up versus 3,500 acres for the same amount of juice or energy is far worth it. And, I would entertain that idea on one of my farms. So that's something to be prepared for if they ever do want to come to town. Or if you want a big data center in our community, I would look for them to have to use something like that. But try to get your homework done on SMRs. And I'm sorry, I'm not a very good public speaker. This is off the hip, so I'm not prepared. But just be, aware of what can come down the pike. Okay? Thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks, Dean.
After Phil, we have Lindsay Payne.
Hello, I'm Phil Farrar. I was here at the last one. I don't have anything wrote down, but I have firsthand experience with solar fields. The company that I work for has actually helped build them. And I'm going to tell you right now, the topsoil is gone. I've seen 30 to 40 acres of woods be cut down just so the farmer can get more of those on there, more of those panels. Those trees are gone. And I hear a lot of these climatologist people with their fake science. You cut down all those trees, what do trees convert carbon dioxide into? Oxygen. They're cutting them down. It's all a scam. This whole thing about solar and the windmills, at least with the wind turbines, they don't take up as much room, but they're noisy. But solar's not the way to go. And honestly, there is no good way to get energy outside of the way Nikola Tesla did it, but we all know what happened to him in a hotel room in New York City. Couldn't make no money off of it. And that's another thing that it's all I've heard up here is how much a farmer's making. It's about money. Well, I've never seen a U-Haul following a hearse. So you're only here for a limited time. Make the best of what you can. But I'm telling you, these solar fields, it's going to be ugly. You will lose your topsoil. I've seen bulldozers out there pushing topsoil to fill up a pond just so they can make room to flatten out a spot so they can get an access road. And all these solar fields that I've been to, I haven't seen any electric bulldozers or electric excavators out there, and everybody knows what lithium, you got cobalt lakes. You ever get a chance to look up a cobalt lake, look that up. They got people hired to sit out there to keep waterfowl off of it because it turns into an acid lake. And another question is these storage units. When those catch on fire, seeing as how one's going to be right down at the end of some of us' driveway, what happens when that catches on fire? Where is that residue? Is it going to settle on stuff? I got 11 horses. Who's going to pay for that? Do I go after the farmer or whatever that wanted it put in there? Do I go after the county? Who do I go after when I have a total loss after a fire just so somebody else can make some extra money? These are just some of the things I think the county needs to think about. I only live about, I think GPS-wise, way a crow flies, I live about 4.5, 5 miles off the end of the Purdue airport, the runway. So Purdue's going to be directly affected because when the wind blows...
30 seconds, please.
When the wind blows, it's going to go right into town if that thing catches on fire. So, I mean, a lot of the science behind this is junk. A lot of it's propaganda, and they're telling you whatever you want to hear just so they can make a dime. And then we'll be left with the problem. But outside that, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
After Lindsay is Susan Scheckler.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Payne. I'm a member of the Solar Ordinance Study Committee. I grew up in a small rural community in Indiana, surrounded by cornfields and on the bank of the Wildcat Creek. I'm also a mother of 2 small children whose future I care deeply about. In my profession, I train future practicing engineers to collaboratively work with stakeholders to analyze, design, and implement practical systems-based solutions. They learn that in a world beyond college, creating healthy, resilient, sustainable communities means making hard decisions. They learn that these hard decisions must be based on evidence and for the common good. During our conversations on the study committee, there were many hard conversations that needed to be made with the eye towards public health and safety, yet also allowing economic development and the diversification of our energy systems. Some of the alternatives you read in the ordinance are evidence-based and for the common good of Tippecanoe County. Others are not. For example, in a meeting in early February, we believed we'd reach a compromise on the limit of total project acreage for the county. No more than 6,000 total acres of the county shall be developed for large-scale solar ordinance energy systems. This would represent 3% of agricultural land and allow for solar energy systems to be built where they are most efficient and provide willing landowners the ability to lease their land. It also represented a compromise. The 6,000 acre cap was proposed as a number that would respond to residents' concerns that there would be too much solar development in the county. Other unvetted alternatives would eliminate areas zoned AA in the southern and western parts of the county, totaling nearly 1,000 acres, or half of the county's farmland. Some land within these areas is likely to be very appropriate for solar energy systems. The soils in these areas are no more productive than other areas of the county. It's simply a zoning category. Additionally, capping a single solar project at 400 acres would be a near de facto ban on solar. A project size is largely dictated by the amount of power the grid is able to accept at a given location without triggering expensive upgrades. This helps limit the size of some projects while maximizing beneficial impacts for the grid and the community. While it's possible to build on a smaller scale, it doesn't mean it makes financial sense for the developer to build it or for the grid operator to allow it. I close with this. These are hard decisions, and I urge you to thoughtfully weigh the alternatives, implore sound evidence-based decision-making, and set policy for the common good of Tippecanoe County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan is the last speaker that we have signed up here, so if you would like to speak and you haven't signed up, please come up here and do so.
Susan Schechter, 1001 Ferry Street, Lafayette. Indiana's farmland is a limited natural resource. Once developed for housing or commercial buildings, it is unlikely to be farmland ever again. Fortunately, farmers have an option to continue farming while leveraging the land to earn solid income from hosting a solar project. Ground-based solar panels are not permanent structures and are designed to be decommissioned. Most solar projects have plans to remove equipment and restore land to its original state. Even more beneficial, agrivoltaics, the simultaneous use of land for agriculture and solar power generation, harvests photons from the sun while sheep or poultry graze under the panels. The 1.3 gigawatt Mammoth Solar Project in Pulaski County is implementing sheep grazing under panels and crop production in buffer areas. Gunther Farms, a northern Indiana organic meat producer, has been raising sheep under panels. Purdue University has an active agrivoltaics program, we heard from a student of that program tonight, that supports farming under panels. Farmland has produced energy from way back when. Hay and oats fed oxen and horses to power early farming and transportation. Corn is fermented to make ethanol to be blended in fuel. We don't drink that ethanol, so those of you, there was a joke about we like to eat, we like to drink, but that ethanol goes to transportation, and it's really a very inefficient way to produce energy relative to solar. Our county commissioners have put a one-year moratorium on utility-scale solar in Tippecanoe County while they rewrite the solar ordinance. We hope you come up with a plan that protects farmland and allows neighbors to have suitable buffers. I hope you use the same protection in writing ordinances for other types of businesses, such as fuel stations and factories. It seems there is a bit of a special case for renewable energy that doesn't allow it to operate in Tippecanoe County. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So, anyone else wishing to make a comment? before we close public comment and move on to kind of working through this, reviewing this? Wait a second, do we have someone? Just in time, just in time.
Okay, yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Hi, I'm Peter Bermel. I'm a professor at Purdue University. I just ran over from class, so apologies for being a bit late. As you had heard from one of our graduate students, Jeff McRae Sanchez, agrivoltaics is really a key future technology that we're trying to develop at Purdue to benefit the local community. And more broadly, I think solar is a really vital technology to solve some of the key challenges that we're facing as a society and also on the local scale in Tippecanoe County. So one of the big things is like, how do we get enough power to basically sustain our future? And I think one of the challenges right now is that many of the folks in this room, including myself, have seen like rising energy prices. And so one of the reasons is basically our supply has not been keeping up with the demand. But if you look at the national scale, solar, wind, and batteries are kind of the three leading energy sources that are being added to the grid. And it's being added not just in very specific locations, but across the whole United States. And also it's being added globally. And the reason why it's so compelling now is that we've been following what's called a learning curve, and we're getting better and better at reducing the cost of solar and also improving kind of the installation to siting to decommissioning. All these different steps have actually advanced tremendously over the last couple of decades. So we've gone from a position in which maybe like 10 or 20 years ago, solar was very much a niche technology to now it's a mainstream technology. And so if we just prevent ourselves from even being able to use solar power, then we're putting ourselves behind the curve in terms of ability to keep up economically, both within the Midwest and across the country and on a global scale. So I think it's absolutely essential for the future of Tippecanoe County and our citizens and our future to have this capability. And then to Professor Payne's point earlier, I also agree that limiting ourselves to 400 acres per location is not necessarily in our best interest. I do understand that there are concerns from locals, but I think that there should be more flexible approach to accommodate concerns from locals, but be able to go over. Oh, yeah, sure. There should be more flexible strategy to accommodate concerns about overbuilding at specific sites, but also be able to make it economically attractive to the developers and, of course, accommodate local interests. So I think being able to balance those needs in a more flexible and holistic framework is absolutely essential as well. So thank you for your time and attention.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Nobody running in the door, so we're nobody new. Okay, so I think next is if we have any questions or comments from the Ordinance Committee. Does anybody have anything they need a clarification on? Otherwise, hopefully Ryan's going to walk us through what we're going to do. And
that's right. And I think Nathan and I might kind of go back and forth here as we go through this, if there's specific questions. But I thought we could kind of start at the top and go all the way to the end. And then, again, if you're taking my recommendation of just focusing on the non-consensus ones first, we can proceed that way.
Yes, I think.
Okay, all right. All right, then, Nathan, why don't you go to our first one, which is a big one. We got to get to it sometime. All right. So this is the permitted use table, Chapter 3-2, large-scale solar, presently permitted by right in all of the industrial zones. No change was recommended. Permitted by special exception in OR, AA, and AW. There was no consensus. And so we have 4 alternatives. There's always going to be an alternative of no change, but So the one is to drop the AA zone, but leave the others by special exception. And again, the by right zones, there's no changes. 3, to change the SE zones, but add a footnote to the permitted use table that no more than 6,000 total acres of the county shall be developed for these systems, which that was mentioned earlier by public comment. And number 4, no change to SE zones, but add a footnote to permitted use table that no more than 10% of all crop and pasture land, excuse me, defined by the most current USDA Census of Agriculture. And so these are the alternatives that have been offered by various committee members.
Brian, I have a question. So if AA was removed and a property owner whose property was zoned AA wanted to, they would be free to have a rezone to A or
They're free to offer,
If they
to
wanted-
submit a petition for
if they wanted to be a
rezoning.
participating property owner, they could do a rezone.
Correct.
Could so say that there was a proposed project and the developer had 10 property owners that all were zoned AA. Could that be done in one petition to rezone those 10 property owners? In other words, can the developer be the petitioner in this case?
Unless I'm mistaken, Eric, that petitioner, the company representatives could represent all those property owners. All those owners have signed consent forms and that they are agreeing to that action. Correct? Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, one hearing, multiple owners would be fine.
So as we go through these, Ryan, are you wanting us to discuss this, try to make a recommendation?
Yeah,
or come to some conclusion?
Right, obviously, we have our April meeting to settle things before it goes to APC. If I would say if the ordinance committee is in a position where they're interested in choosing one of these, that could be brought to the floor and voted on, and then if there's a majority vote, then that would be the preferred alternative.
Yep. I see that as we move forward, we need to make a decision, and that doesn't mean as we study other, we may come back and revisit that particular recommendation, or we get more input. So it doesn't have to be a final is what I'm thinking. So if we can come up with something and move forward, I think is positive.
Right.
Other thoughts on that? So to try to move forward on the 3-2, it looks like we have actually four options, which includes do nothing.
Well, in this particular case, we could go with 2 alternatives, right? We could go with alternative 1 and alternative 3.
Yeah, you're free to craft your own alternative as well. I wanted to make that clear. You're not limited to these, so.
Good point.
And also offer that if you want to move on to the next one, we could, let that simmer and then come back to it as well. So there's, but I'll let that be your call.
Do you have a thought, Tom, of combining those two?
I think that that's worthy of some discussion, yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess I should say alternative 3, the first phrase would have to be omitted. I guess what I would mean would be allowed by special exception in ORA, AW only, and then add to that no more than 6,000 total acres of the county shall be developed for large scale.
Okay. If you want to make that a motion, we'll put it on the floor and we'll try to come to a decision on that.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We go with what I'll call alternative 5 here.
Yeah, that works.
is allowed by special exception in ORA-AW only, and no more than 6,000 total acres in the county shall be developed.
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to combine basically 1 and 3 with changing that to ORA and AW and no more than 6,000 acres. Any other discussion, thoughts on that? I think that's reasonable to get started. So if there's no more discussion, I'm going to call for a vote and we'll move on to the next one. Any other thoughts? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
5-0.
That would be 5-0, yes.
All right, that wraps up the first tab, so good job. Now we get into it, okay. All right, why don't you take us to the top, Nathan? Okay. All right, and then we will hit a point towards the end where we'll bump up against the community scale solar, which is the smaller variety. And if we get there tonight, I'll talk about what's going on there. But let's go. Oops, the wrong packet. Okay, so there were a host of items that were no changes recommended. And then we had some process issues that were all agreed to in green, some of which speak to some of the comments, many of the comments that were brought to today. So we'll get into yellow. This is, now we get into what comprises a large-scale energy system. It's defined, and now the process for how it is developed is what follows. So sub A presently says all solar panels, mounting devices, and inverters as defined shall be set back 50 feet from all property lines. And we did not achieve consensus here, and so we have 3 alternatives. You have 2 principal alternatives and then no change. The first alternative, without reciting it all here, unless you'd like me to, is essentially a series, and Nathan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, kind of staggering the setbacks based on how many property lines are impacted for a non-participating provider, or non-participating property owner, excuse me. It's noted that these are definitions that were agreed to in green earlier for Chapter 1, is adding definitions for participating person versus non-participating. So now we're calling out what happens if you're non-participating, but yet you're being, your property is abutted by this proposal. And so the upshot is that the more of your property lines are impacted, the setbacks increase. Is that kind of a nice short and sweet way of putting it, Nathan?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And so we've kind of, alternative 1 kind of lays out that situation. And then alternative 2, I think did not, yeah, it is read correctly here. My printout didn't didn't get it all. It says, alternative 2 is unless waived by written consent of the owner, all solar panels and mounting devices shall be set back 1,320 feet from all non-participating property lines. So that would be a superior setback to the others in alternative 1. And if there are any questions as you read through alternative 1, let us know. But there's essentially a setback from a roadway, and then a linear distance from the occupied structures on that non-participating person's property. And then as 2 of their property lines of the non-participating person are impacted, then the setbacks increase. 3, they increase more. 4, they really increase. And so that is the theory here. And this was based off of research done from other counties that have created staggered setbacks like this.
And wasn't this mentioned in Boone counties? Was it this where that came from?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Jasper.
Sorry,
Okay,
Jasper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
My initial thought is it seems like that's maybe moving towards you get non-participating people to be participating if they want a closer setback. So, and I'm assuming they may, like in, when they did, we don't have windmills, wind farms, but if you're participating, they would pay them a fee. So if a person
Kind of encourages the
Yeah.
good neighbor.
Yeah, if
Yes.
they want to participate and receive some financial benefit, we've heard some things about that kind of lets people choose whether they want to look at them or not.
Yeah, because they can waive the right if they choose to.
So at least that's the one that seems most favorable to me.
Can I clarify something here? So in alternative one, it says unless waived by written consent of the owner. That's understood to be the non-participating property owner, just to clarify.
Right.
I was hoping that was the case, or it didn't make sense.
We'll note that so that.
Okay, what's a participating owner? What's the difference between non-participating and participating?
So participating is the landowner where the project is being proposed, somebody who's in any way financially connected to the project. And then non-participating would be any property or property owner that is not involved with the project, that's within a distance of either 2 parcels or 200 feet, whichever is greater.
Okay, so a participating person could not have solar panels on their property. Would that be included in that definition?
Right, if they like signed a lease agreement with a developer, for instance, yeah.
I understand. Thank you, Nathan.
So, I have a question in regard to the process, and it feels like we've talked about this a zillion times, but, so, the items as we move through these, then we'll open it up for public comment at the next meeting in regard to decisions where
The goal was to try to get consensus, a majority vote ultimately from the ordinance committee on a preferred alternative. And then that
Okay.
preferred alternative would then, we would translate it, we would modify it into ordinance format.
I see.
For the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
And then you could still make changes there if you wanted to.
Okay.
And so could the full APC. So.
Okay.
But at least get it from kind of concept into ordinance. So.
Thoughts? I'd entertain a motion to select one, and we'll put it on the floor, discuss that one, and see if we can come to a consensus.
I would make the motion that we move forward with alternative one.
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to select alternative one. It's pretty long worded, so I'm not going to read it, but at least we'll have something, like Ryan said, we'll move forward. We can discuss that again if needed.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that is moved forward.
5-0?
All right.
Yes.
The next one, so we just talked about the solar panels, mounting devices, and inverters. Here we have specifically inverters shall be, this is the current ordinance. Let me get to it here. Shall be set back a minimum of 200 feet when abutting a residential use property line or residential zone. And then we have 3 alternatives here. Somewhat similar to the previous language unless waived by the non-participating property owner. We got that non-participating in there that time. Solar inverters and any proposed transformers shall be set back a minimum of 500 feet from all non-participating occupied structures and shall be located interior to the SES or the solar complex project such that they are completely surrounded by the panels and mounting devices. The alternative 2 is unless waived by the non-participating property owner. All inverters and any proposed transformer shall be set back 2,640 feet from all non-participating property lines. And then alternative 3 tackles it from a different perspective using noise levels. So unless waived by the non-participating property owner, all solar inverters and any proposed transformers shall be located in such a way to maintain a noise level of 45 decibels measured from all non-participating property lines.
Nathan, I don't know if you can answer this since you've done some research. Is an inverter similar to a transformer or a, power substation?
No, those are different pieces of technology, but an expert in the audience, I'm sure, could answer this better than me on like what the specific difference is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, okay, how about the Purdue guy? Why don't you come forward? I don't, why don't you, someone come forward? I got 2 guys there.
Zach, you know a few things. Okay, all right.
Just give us briefly the difference.
Yeah, so transformer is usually for like very high voltage. That's to connect directly to the grid. So that's like a very, like safety sensitive issue. But then inverters are lower voltage. So those are voltages that you would typically find in a household in many cases. So they're not nearly as dangerous or risky to the general public. And so there are even these things called microinverters that are installed on individual solar panels that are basically just integrated into the panel itself and are considered to be very, very safe to be close to, like by normal like household residents.
I was thinking more about how they might be offensive to neighbors. Are they noisy?
So generally, inverters are primarily solid-state devices, and they don't usually have moving parts or make a lot of sound because they're operating like kind of like normal electronics you would have in a house. So I would think the noise issues would be very minimal unless there was like a malfunctioning part or something unusual happening.
What would make it?
Inverters are 90 plus decibels and transformers going to be 100.
Why don't we?
Let's keep it on that.
Yeah, well, it depends on the size of the inverter. I mean, obviously, you could have very large inverters, but I think the microinverters are much quieter.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that.
So it seems like if, based on what was just shared, that we would want to make some sort of decibel limit to maybe encourage the use of the microinverters. Is that an accurate statement, that we'd want to limit the decibels from any, from the, what are we measuring from, the non-participating property lines?
Why don't you come up?
Could you come up?
Yeah.
Zach from Emergent Solar.
So in regards to microinverters or string inverters, if you're looking for production and reliability of the solar project, the more inverters that you have, the more friction points. So microinverters substantially outweighs any string inverters. So even though the decibels are that meet within the 45 threshold, I would closely consider not making that a standard.
So distance is a better standard than measuring decibels?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the inverters. So all inverters will make sound. Distance does play some effect, but string inverters typically are within the 45 to 50 decibel threshold. Yeah.
Is there anything else that would make an inverter offensive to a neighbor?
If you had multiple inverters, I guess, next to the house or within a close proximity. And when I mean multiple is a dozen or so. Let's say within 50 feet, they all make sound.
So what's the ratio of an inverter to a panel?
Typically, it's 1.2 is the AC/DC ratio.
So there's 2 panels for every inverter. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
No, actually. No, that's not true. That's not true. Well, it depends. So, if it's a 100 kilowatt project, then the inverters, based on the size, needs to equal up to 80. That's what the 1.2 AC to DC ratio is. That's for.
But inverters are in a project are not typically placed in one area. I mean, they accompany the array.
They do. They do accompany the array, but it depends on the interconnection points. So more than likely, wherever the closest interconnection point is to the utility, that's where the inverters will typically be placed, or at least that's ideally.
Okay.
It also depends on strings and what panels are being used, or even what the components of the inverters themselves as well.
May I ask, can I supplement what Zachary is saying, because I can clarify?
While we hold off on that, what I see happening is we're probably going to move through here, try to get some form, and then we're going to revisit this, and that'd be the opportunity to get more input, different opinions, if that seems reasonable. So we're just trying to at least have a brief understanding. So, sounds like it depends how they lay it out, how
Yes.
technology changes.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I'm a little stumped on how to move forward on this one.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking we pick one, and then as we learn more, when we have the public hearing next time, we may tweak that.
If I had to pick one, I'd pick alternative 1 then.
That's all I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And then my guess is we'll probably tweak those.
I don't know that that's right, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm with you, Tom.
Yeah.
Number one, but add to it, like, a minimum of 500 or the noise level, whichever is greater. So my point is, if you need to be further away to make that noise level come into compliance, it's an either or a, I don't know.
No event should be more than 45 dB.
That would greatly depend on what inverters that they're using. So, whether it be-
Okay. Thank you. I think we got what we need from you.
So-
we're going to try to get back.
One staff comment, if you will.
Okay,
Sorry,
sure.
I know we're talking about noise a lot. There are, later in this proposal, you'll find that there's a proposal to regulate the noise for all components.
Oh.
Right. So that is sort of dealt with later on as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Nathan.
So if we have a motion, so we'd be going from, if we chose alternative 1, we're going from 200 feet currently to 500 feet. So is that somebody make a motion of what they're
Yes.
thinking?
That's right.
Yes. Although alternative 1 is from non-participating, and as it reads right now, it's 200 feet from any residential use. Is that correct?
It is. And are you suggesting a blend of those two? By keeping
Yeah,
the
the
200 feet?
current ordinance doesn't discriminate between participating and not participating. This proposal does. So,
So is in
Unless
alternative
they waive it.
one, there is no setback from a participating resident.
That's right.
Is that an issue?
Is
that an issue?
Well, if you're in on the project, you certainly, at the time of your negotiating your private lease with them, you could set
Okay.
all sorts of terms that
Okay.
are amicable to your interests, which I was advising them I would, take that into consideration. So,
It's also property line versus occupied structure?
yes.
Okay. Was there a motion?
No, I think we need one.
Okay, I'll make the motion. We proceed at this point with alternative one.
I second it.
So I have a motion second to move forward with alternative one. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. 5-0, yes, what I heard.
Okay, carrying on, some of the green items here about creating wildlife corridors and protecting wildlife from shock hazards. That was all agreed to. The vegetative management plan issue, including agrivoltaics, all that was added in here as well. That was agreed to. Let's see. I believe we get down to this point, sub D, Nathan, decommissioning. Okay. So we'll tackle that at the end. That's going to be the last tab, so just kind of earmark that one. And then UZO 41115 A through D is concerning community scale solar. There are a lot of elements in the large scale solar, once they are addressed, may alter the processes of community scale. The smaller scale solar, the committee had no firm recommendations on them. So it was staff's position that once we've decided what to do with large scale solar, staff will propose any recommended changes to the smaller scale stuff. So
Okay.
that would necessarily come after we're done with the big stuff. So what follows after this are new subsections. So these are areas that are not in the ordinance right now, but additional regulation that our committee was contemplating. There are some with consensus and some without, so we'll go through them. The first one is concerning noise. We just talked about this. So a new subsection with noise, it would likely go in the development standard somewhere, but obviously it's new, so we don't have a reference point for it, so we're just going to kind of go through these. Alternative one concerning the noise that these facilities make in their total configuration. Noise level measured at all non-participating property lines shall not exceed 45 dBA. That's alternative one. Alternative two is the maximum permitted sound level shall not exceed 55 dBA between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. and 45 dBA between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. So one has a time range with a increased standard.
Maybe a question for Nathan. It seems like when the sun is shining, the inverters or whatever's making noise, and when the sun goes down, they're probably not doing much. Is that where that comes from?
That's my understanding, generally.
How the inverters are set.
You gotta be a microphone. Yeah. So, okay. Now let's just move forward with this, and we'll hear input on that later. So,
And this is unrelated to activities, repair, construction, anything. This is the equipment itself, the passive equipment, as opposed to somebody going there and cutting the lawn or anything else, because the county doesn't have any noise limits.
The intent was the normal operations of the facility, not necessarily its construction or
Okay.
lawn mowing.
Because I believe there are no other sound
We don't have a noise
levels,
ordinance.
no noise ordinance whatsoever in the county. So this would be specific to the, and I call it passive operation. It's different than a lawnmower. If you have a lawnmower, it might be louder, but we're not
Correct.
trying to regulate that, correct?
That's right. That
Thank
was
you.
the intent.
Yeah.
And again, this is only operational, not construction.
Yes.
Or does it apply to construction too?
My understanding was it was operational, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, yes.
I think we anticipated that during the construction phase, that the county could execute agreements with them on how that would work specific to that unique time period in the project's life and hold them to the terms of that agreement. And perhaps a higher standard.
We're also proposing construction hours, limiting construction hours, and as we move on, you'll see that, so.
Yeah.
And remind me, did both of these come from an ordinance? Another county's ordinance?
I think it came out of our discussions, but.
Yeah, so the alternative 2 is consistent with our industrial performance standards, which is also in Chapter 4 of the ordinance. So that's where that language is pulled from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's what's currently being,
The industrial performance standards only apply to certain industrial uses, which this would not be included within. So we're just sort of copy and pasting essentially.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't just reference the industrial performance standards because this wouldn't fall under that. Of course, remember alternative 3 also would be no change. Do not regulate this, And then, of course, if you have another alternative past that, we'll entertain it.
Thoughts?
I need some frame of reference for what 45 decibels versus 55 decibels is.
That's a good question.
Maybe Zach Martinez might be able to describe that. You want to come on up and speak?
Unless I have a. Do you like an industrial hygiene? I would need that.
You're certainly welcome to recognize someone who, from the audience, that is interested without opening up a debate.
Right. Who? Okay, yes, please, somebody that has an expert on, as my voice, 45 or 55.
Occupational safety and health and environmental background. So decibels is a scale, so 55 is essentially 10 times more powerful than 45. That's the main thing, it's a logarithmic scale. 45 is referenced by EPA and WHO and several of theirs for residential areas, nighttime, as being the healthy level. So this is a health issue primarily. So 45 dB, the pressure wave, 10 times. In terms of a relative noise level, 55 dB would be the kind of the general background with white noise level you would expect in an office environment, similar to this. 45 dB then is quieter than that. WHO and EPA recognize that residential areas should be quiet at night. It is a health consideration. So that's how those criteria came around. But if you look at it from a magnitude, it's a logarithmic scale. The industrial scales start kicking in as far as health hazards that we mitigate or that we control. Usually around the 80, 82 decibels is where we call the action limit, where we have to take action to intervene to protect and to reduce. That's an industrial limit from OSHA.
That answer your question, Kathy?
Well, I was thinking more of like a motorcycle or, just what could I, but what I heard you say is the noise in this room is 55 decibels.
A new commercial refrigerator now running in your house is somewhere in the 35 to 32 dB range is what they rate them at.
Thank you.
So a magnitude below what we're talking about here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we proceed at this point with alternative 1.
I agree.
I second it.
Okay, so we're 45 all the time, day and night, is that proposal? Discussion.
I agree, because I don't know how we're going to, to manage the other, to me, seems alternative 2. This would just be, what it is, and
Yeah, and enforcement is always, should be on your mind too.
Yeah.
So, well noted.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'll say aye, just because I think 55 would be okay during the day, so. But let's move on, that carries.
4-1.
Yeah, 4-1.
Okay. The next issues concerning glare. There currently is no regulation on this regarding this particular use. So we have alternative one, I believe is connected again with the industrial performance standards, sort of borrowing from them into this code. Glare produced from the large-scale SES shall not cause illumination in excess of 0.5-foot candles when measured from any non-participating property line. And alternative two is a little more sophisticated. So large-scale SES installed by project owners shall be designed and constructed to, one, minimize glare on adjacent properties and roadways, two, not interfere with vehicular traffic, including air, and if construction of the SES APC staff receives a complaint related to interference with glare, the staff shall notify the property owner or operator and provide 30 days to respond as to how the complaint will be addressed. The SES owner and operator shall take reasonable steps to respond to minimize the complaint. Or you can proceed with not regulating this matter.
I don't have a policy comment at all, but I do have an enforceability and a standard. That's a very difficult standard.
Chime in anytime.
To try and figure out. It basically says, talk to your neighbor and see what you can come up with, which is a difficult standard for us to enforce. Not a bad idea, but it's a difficult standard for us.
You're referring to alternative two.
That's an alternative two.
Yeah.
True.
And is alternative one the 0.5-foot candles, is that?
That's from our industrial performance
Okay,
standards.
okay.
So with the right equipment, it can be measured.
We're needing to be at the microphone.
Okay. What he said was,
Would you like to
these
recognize
lights are 8-foot candles. That's what we're seeing right now. So 0.5 is pretty small, very small. But that comes somewhere in our ordinance? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
from the industrial performance standards later in
Okay.
chapter 4. So we just borrowed that standard because it was good for heavy industry.
Sure.
It was a starting point.
Do other ordinance address this issue that you are aware of?
Yeah, there were some ordinances shared with us that addressed glare. There was some disagreement on the committee about whether a foot candle was an appropriate unit of measurement for glare, so maybe it's worth asking an expert in the audience about that.
I'm inclined that we pick something, move on, then we'll have something to focus on at the next meeting. Then we can focus on just these standards and see if we can tweak those. Opposed to the broad discussion, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Opposed to trying to do that tonight. We got about 15 minutes left to try to get through this, so you can have something to work with.
Yes.
Motion to move forward with alternative one.
Okay.
I second it.
A motion is second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 5-0.
All right, the next new subsection proposed is regarding lighting, and I believe this would just be so exterior lighting for any large-scale SES project shall be shown on the proposed development plan, should be no more than the minimum necessary for security. Any such lighting shall be shielded and or oriented to prevent direct or indirect lighting on a dwelling of a non-participating parcel. Light shall not exceed 1/2-foot candles at the non-participating property line. So, make sure we don't have any, would this be considered an overlap from the one we just handled? How is this different?
I think the other one's glare,
Yeah. Right.
and this would be night light.
Right, so they could be conflated if they were to go in the 0.5-foot candle matter, potentially.
You don't have glare at night?
Okay.
I'm not a scientist.
All right, we'll,
Saying from a conceptual standpoint.
From the
Sure.
sorry from my side, please continue.
That's okay. Nathan, once again, anything in other ordinances that lead you?
So this point, again, this point 5, in the industrial performance standards, we measure light. We're not measuring glare, if I'm remembering correctly. I can pull up the ordinance to verify if you all want
okay.
that. So that's where this is pulled from.
Okay, so once again from that. Comments from the commission here?
Motion, we move forward with alternative 1.
Okay,
I second it.
so a motion is second. Any other discussion, thoughts? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Ryan?
Okay, the next one is concerning adding a provision for liability insurance. And it's quite a lengthy section here. I believe Catherine from our committee was the one that offered this one, so if you'd like to ask where this came from, that would be the author. But presently, we have no requirement for this. And it's obviously covering bodily injury, property damage.
Motion that we move forward with alternative 1.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second to move forward with number 1. Any other discussion? Seems reasonable, and most people would carry liability insurance anyway, but it's good to spell it out. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
All right. The next one is concerning plantings at the pre-construction stage. So the project is approved and they're in the pre-construction mode. Alternative 1 states that if the site includes tilled land, a project site shall be planted with native perennial vegetation 3 months prior to site disturbance to reduce erosion. Alternative 2 says if the site includes tilled land, project site shall be planted with native perennial vegetation 3 years prior to site disturbance to do the same.
Okay. Question for our drainage board expert. It seems like that erosion control is, you address that at drainage board.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
is there any reason to readdress that? with
No,
more
I mean, they would
standards?
have to take there's state and federal guidelines in regard to that. Any project would have to follow that for erosion.
Through the drainage board. So it sounds like we already addressed that.
So alternative 3 perhaps? No
no.
recommendation?
Well, no, I guess I was proposing alternative 1, right? Well,
Oh, I'm sorry for misunderstanding.
I'm just saying,
Well,
we're getting into something that's
yeah.
outside the drainage board
yeah, I
requirements.
don't know.
Is this
Yeah.
something zoning should regulate, or is it already dealt with somewhere else?
We need to have a microphone.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's move forward with alternative 1 and.
Okay, we'll
and-
tweak it.
Yeah.
Okay, make the motion and we'll move forward.
So moved.
I second it.
So we have a motion and a second to move forward with alternative 1. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. I see hands go up, but once again, we'll have this, and I'm expecting next meeting, we will focus on these, what we chose, and we may tweak those as we get more information. I don't think we have time to do all that tonight, but we'd like to get answers. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yep. All right. The next section is, there was an agreement on project construction hours. That was a consensus item. The next item is concerning the individual project size limit. So earlier there was the total acreage of the county for all projects, and this is specific projects. So presently it's not regulated, so there no change is an option. Alternative 1 states that would require the large-scale SES area to be entirely contiguous. So rainbow trout, for example, had two areas that were set apart from each other. They did not touch. So this would require them to combine. And then alternative 2 is no single large-scale SES project shall exceed 400 acres, which was a comment mentioned earlier in these proceedings. So those are the two content-oriented recommendations.
I'm lost.
There is no current size limit on projects.
Right. Yeah, it's currently unregulated. And rainbow trout was 1,700, I believe, in total.
Yeah, I think generally.
Yeah, and it wasn't contiguous, it was split over 2 areas, but. Yeah.
And the contiguous language came from where? I can't remember.
It actually came from staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was pulled from Clinton County. Of course, they do theirs by a different process. It's not through the BZA, so they do an overlay district that requires contiguousness, so.
Yeah. Yeah, the upshot is that in a single petition, it all has to be one unit. Now, they could do another one that's not contiguous, but it would have to be under a different petition.
And they could do those petitions simultaneously.
Yes, unless they have some sort of rule that says you can't.
Yeah. And this is one of those where it could be morphed. I mean, this could be, we could do alternative 1 and alternative 2, or yeah.
Yeah, you can mix and match this one.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like the 400 acres is essentially a ban. Yeah, I would say we move forward with alternative 1 for the time being.
So I take it that's a motion?
That's a motion.
So, okay.
I second it.
So a motion is second. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the last item for this tab was concerning a proposed fee schedule amendment. The fee schedule is in county ordinance. It's not in the zoning ordinance. And the ordinance, bylaw committee usually makes those recommendations for changes to it. But we agreed that given the work involved with doing these petitions, it does make sense to increase the fee. I don't think there was any disagreement amongst the group there. But how to proceed was I think in dispute. So here the committee recommends that the fee schedule be updated to include an application fee that's unique to SESs. So it would be, presently it's just $500 for any SE petition. The fee should be at a level that takes into account the staff time required to review the materials, process, and everything. So a number wasn't arrived at. It was just sort of recommended to investigate that and land on something that seemed reasonable within the bounds of state code. And then alternative 2 is the fee remains the same at $500, but noted that there is existing there's a proposal to provide language in Chapter 4 that empowers staff to hire third-party consultants at the developer's expense, and that does appear in a few different places to sort of address getting the expertise of someone else in order to help assist with the review and implementation of the project. So
in this particular case, we would not need to have the amount of the fee because that would change over time, and that would be done in the fee ordinance in the county.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
we normally in the UZO we don't
normally
have the fees for petitions in them. It doesn't say you can't, but that's just we've not historically done that.
And this is probably a legal question, but I think we definitely want to at least have the ability to hire third-party consultants to review. Does that need to be in this, or does that need to be within our fee ordinance?
I have 2 thoughts on it. First is this is brand new, and therefore, yes, we're spending a lot of time because it's brand new, which would push us towards, let's get a big fee. Well, it won't be brand new at some point, and so that larger fee then a normal or a customary type development, maybe not really needed. The second point is exactly yours, is it's brand new. It's important to get it right, and for the county to be able to hire an expert at the expense of the developer seems to me to be a very smart thing, particularly now that it's new. And some point in the future, maybe it won't be new and we don't need that consultant. So I think that's a good way to approach it. Is the fee can be whatever it is, but to me, the important ingredient is to say, yes, we should do that. I think it should be passed here.
So it
If
should
you
be
want to have a
included.
pass-through fee to an expert, it should be passed here.
Similar to the drainage board,
Exactly.
the developer pays the review fee.
Right.
And so it's not something that's unusual when you
Yeah,
get.
that would be a
It's a fair
similar
rate.
process, yeah.
And there would
for,
be
two.
multiple other arrangements that would be, a road use agreement, economic development agreement, so on and so
Correct.
forth, that would be negotiated outside of this.
Yes.
But, so in other words, that arrangement for third-party,
And those agreements could have these arrangements made for third-party consultants paid for by the owner.
Okay.
They're entering into that contract and they're binding themselves to this deal.
so we do think it's a good idea to put it in here. Is that what you're saying?
I do,
Okay,
personally.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it really needs to be a combination of alternative one and alternative two. Because I don't think the fees, like, what do we collect for rainbow trout in fees?
Well, there's a $500 submission fee.
That was it? Yeah, yeah.
I agree there should be some combination, but it also makes me leery because the rails can come off the track too, and I know things that we hear sometimes, so I don't know how we I do believe there needs to be probably third-party oversight and that type of thing, but, I mean, I don't know.
When you do subdivisions, I've seen some of the fee schedules where it depends how big it is, how many lots you're doing. It's a graduated. If it's a small, the fee is smaller than if you're doing a very large project. Is that something that makes sense? So
Right, the
if-
more units you add, the more
Yeah,
the fee
it's-
goes up.
It's a, yeah.
But I would think if they were bringing forth a project, there's going to be meetings long before an application is submitted.
Yes, part of what was agreed to earlier was a kind of a process change of having a pre-submission meeting that involves all of the county checkpoints, which includes, everybody.
And
you
in
know,
that pre-submission meeting is when it would be determined what type of third party and an approximate cost to them. So it's not like, I don't think it would be a fee that they wouldn't know about up front. Does that alleviate some of your? Exactly, that would be right.
I mean, I'm not
yeah.
saying there can't be some adjustments, but you're not thinking one thing and all of a sudden you're way over here and it's X.
Like, for example, we would want a third party to
Sure.
be inspecting
Sure.
the project as it's being
Right.
constructed. And that would be something that the county would hire that vendor, but the project owner would pay for it.
Yeah. Understand.
Okay. So you're recommending a combination?
Yeah.
Of the two? I see
Probably
how it
needs
could
some-
possibly be combined.
Probably needs some rewording, but yes.
Mhm.
Is that a motion, sir?
So a third alternative, perhaps?
Yeah. Yes. Is that clear enough that I'll make a motion, we combine alternative one and alternative two?
I second it.
Okay, motion is second. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. How much more work do we have?
All right, well, that does wrap up the second tab there, which was the biggest one. The next one is the decommissioning plan, and there was a subgroup of the study committee that took this on because we got to a point where we'd gotten through the other items. And so what's before you has not achieved a consensus per se, and that committee members may have alternatives to what is shown here they may be ready to bring them to the table tonight for consideration. So
You said they were or were not? ready?
They may be ready.
May
I
be
don't want
ready.
to speak
Okay.
for them if they're not, but it's possible we perhaps could let them finish their work and get a consensus to us for April. I know it does kind of kick this particular important section out, but I believe most of our steering committee, or our study committee meeting folks are here, so. But we are at 7 o'clock.
Yep, we're at 7 o'clock, but at least I think we went through that one section where you can put that in form. We can
Yes,
address
yes,
that
we
at the
just
next
certainly have
ordinance committee.
plenty we can get organized.
Yeah, and we can address that, how,
And decommissioning is its own section at the end, and so it'll likely kind of still be at the end. It'll just, it depends on the content we select.
I'm just trying to figure out how we get through this next month's ordinance committee, both tabs.
But I do think that, I don't, maybe I'm
Well,
misspeaking, but
go
I was
ahead,
going to
Tom.
say, I don't think this will be a contentious area. I think we all want a strong decommissioning.
Okay.
So I think if this committee could, just come to the next meeting prepared, and if the subcommittee.
Yeah, because then the burden on staff would just be to have it ready for an ordinance format for APC, which I think we could accomplish, given it's not super long.
Yeah.
But we at least have the vast bulk of it in ordinance format, and then any changes you want to make there, we can accomplish at 4-1 meeting.
Is it possible to bring something at the next ordinance committee meeting that you guys combine this? At least we can have some format to work off of to amend or change.
This particular section here?
Yes.
Yes, I think.
If you would do that.
I
then
think
we-
if the members that were working on it could complete their work and
Okay.
meet again, they could perhaps provide a more complete version of this that is their consensus. I hear a.
Seems like they can do
motion
that.
in a second
That's
behind
good.
me.
So, yeah, so we got the first one, you can bring that ordinance. We
Yes.
have this, just so we can get through that committee
Right.
and have some good discussion.
Yep, and then.
Tweak those if
Then our
needed.
subgroup will be prepared, we'll have something to present on 4-1. It won't necessarily be an ordinance format, but at least the content will be there, and if there's general agreement and there's concurrence here, it could be pretty quick, and then our job is just to get it translated into ordinance format for 415. I think we can do it.
Okay, good. Anything else we need to discuss?
We're done.
We're done, okay.
got one
Okay, go ahead.
I have one suggestion. We've gone through the section, and you've made some motions and passed some things. I would suggest, as a matter of procedure, that you go ahead and approve those things that were consensus items. Those were given to you as consensus by the committee, and in order to pass it on to the next level, you should approve all those items and recommend to the APC that you approve all the green or consensus items that we've just gone
I
through.
think we're going to the ordinance committee with these, but we can still do
Or
that,
to the
and we'll,
Might as well get it out of the
right,
way
I
now.
think that's a good point, though.
So moved.
Okay,
I second it.
okay. Any other discussions? We have a motion, a second, to approve the green, and carry that forward to the next ordinance committee. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
And I think for tracking purposes, when we have the ordinance format in place, we'll continue to show where the green was versus the yellow. That way it's
Okay,
clear
tweak that.
and we don't get lost in the weeds of ordinance format, so.
Okay. I just want to make one final comment. I want to thank everybody. We had good discussion. As David said, very polite, and we stuck to our 3 minutes. We had a bunch of input, a lot of input, so next meeting, we can drill down on these and try to come to a consensus to get an ordinance in place. So thank everybody. So anything else before we adjourn? Take a motion. Adjourn. So we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
That was good. Don't forget your.
Me too, that's why it's like, I'm thinking, once it's right here, I'll be back.
Absolutely.
Well, tomorrow, things.
Did you write me a note with a joke on it, or what?
Our friend, county commissioner, Jen. He wrote that.
Oh.
It's like, don't.
I love it.
Thank you all for this very unusual meeting.
Yeah, it was good.
Very good, Brian.
It worked. Hi there. How are you? Good. I heard so little from you. I wanted you, I was going to give you like 11 minutes.
No. I was just here to sign Sally in. But so good to see you providing a legal basis for us.
There you go. And it was nice to see Sally come in. I didn't see you until a little bit later, but it made me smile in both entrances.
How do you measure that?
The light meter. They have a decibel meter, they have a light meter.
Yeah, what's the glare? Glare versus light. See, that's what seems really. Foot candle's a weird thing, but it's exactly what you said. 1 foot away from this candle is 1 foot.
It's a measurement of light.
But to me, how do you know that it's glare or the sunlight? How do you differentiate between glare and light?
Well, a glare is the light is illuminated by another source, and it's reflected like a mirror with a meter.
But how do you know that it's not being interfered with if the light from the sky?
I see what you're saying.
I just
So
don't
you have
know.
a standard here. Here's
There
the
may be.
baseline.
You put a little box or
Well, you hold the thing here, here's the background noise, here's the.
You know what I just learned, and this is so much like that.
Yeah, welcome to a piece of our,
Well,
bit of our world.
oh, it was wonderful. It really was. I thought this was very good policy. No, but the guy brought forward, he was a professor, he comes forward and he starts talking about the noise from the light going through. He didn't know it was, but it was close enough to his area of expertise. He felt very comfortable giving it. And the guy in the back and 3 or 4 going, no. So it's not for the same thing, back off immediately. Well, the little ones are quieter. Oh, my 4-year-old could tell you. And so